Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company 2.0 today, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical on the 440 Sports Network, and of course on the Believe YouTube Podcast Network. We are presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I'll start off by shouting them out. As you know, Hiller takes great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. They have been in business since 1990. They are family owned and operated with 100% satisfaction. Of happy you'll be or the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more by visiting happyhiller.com. Those are the guys that take great care of my home. Professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians. They come into your home. They leave it clean and better than they found it. And care is their core value. They believe that when they care about others, everybody wins. And they'll take care of the customer on every job, every time. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face truck today. And congratulations to Pete Weber, the voice of the Nashville Predators, who has been named to the latest class of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Pete Weber, where it's due. Okay. Boy, do we have a lot to get into. And I thought the Patriot fans were annoying. Holy shit. These Jets fans, holy crap. Have you been taking a look at the celebration the Jet fans are doing all over social media for the Jermaine Johnson-Tavondre Sweat trade? We got a top 5 player on the defensive line. And I'm like, dude, Tavondre Sweat plays like 20 snaps a game. Again, he's good at what he does. He's a good run-stuffing DT. But when he was drafted at 38 overall, there was all this talk about how much more Tavondre Sweat was going to do and how he was going to be unleashed and unlocked, because when you use the 38th overall pick on somebody, that's what you expect, not a run-stuffing DT that you can go get as an undrafted free agent. You could ask Tier Tart to be a run-stuffing DT if you really wanted him to be. And yet, Jet fans, they're like, oh, we just absolutely fleeced the Titans. Look, man, I was on your side, Jet fans, when it came to the Jarvis Brownlee trade. But when it comes to this, I mean, the way I look at it is the Tennessee Titans had a needed edge rusher. And the need for me was for 2 guys in free agency, and this is one of them. Robert Saleh runs a 4-3. The 4-3 does not need a big, fat nose tackle, which is what Tavondre Sweat is. Aaron Glenn with the Jets, when he was the DC of the Lions, they had DJ Reader, who was a big, fat defensive tackle, and DJ Reader plays a lot like Tavondre Sweat, although Tavondre Sweat has more talent and DJ Reader's more consistent. There's a difference between that and, oh, we fleeced them. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's really Herschel Walker 2.0. Give me a break. Tavondre Sweat. Jamal says, Sweat was eating up double teams, opening up everything for everyone else. Tart didn't. Well, I mean, I thought Jeffrey Simmons was the one getting the double teams. When Jeffrey Simmons wasn't playing well, it was always, oh, no. Jeffrey Simmons is being double teamed. And then when Sweat didn't do anything, it was, oh, no. Sweat's always being double teamed. And then Jeffrey Simmons lost the weight and he went off and he was still being double teamed and he just beat the double teams. And then I guess they didn't double team Sweat anymore and he still didn't do anything. Sweat's fine. If you're looking for a run-stuffing DT who plays 25 snaps a game. Like, that would be like saying, hey, we traded away a punter. He's a good punter. He's not a great punter. He's a good punter. We traded away a good punter. We can go find another punter. That's not the same thing as saying we traded away a good quarterback. There is a difference. But apparently to Jet fans, look, I understand it was a long year. It was a long year for Titan fans. The Titans were 3-14 last year. So were the Jets. Got to celebrate the victories when you can get them, I guess. But again, out in Jetland, it's just, And I'm like, oh, congratulations. He's your problem now. But there is one thing that I have been a little worried about today on the program. I've been thinking about this since we did our first show today, our immediate reaction show. And TDG hinted at this in the first show today, and it's been all I've been thinking about since. And that is when it comes to the edge rusher position, this is all they're going to do, isn't it? The Titans are taking on $11.8 million in salary. That's the $13.4 million as compared to the $1.6 million that T'Vondre Sweat was about to make. The difference is 11.8, so it's $12 million. And $12 million for a second-tier free agent pass rusher is fair. This is essentially those one-year prove-it deals that we always see guys sign. That's what this is. Jermaine Johnson's on a one-year deal. It's, again, when you take out Sweat's money, it's $12 million. And the Titans are going to see if he can get back to his Pro Bowl 7-sack, 50 pressure season from 2023. Or if not, then it'll be next year, 1 year, $4 million somewhere else for Jermaine Johnson. And the Titans think this is going to work because Robert Saleh knows Jermaine Johnson, and they know it's a scheme fit. We know it's a scheme fit, and they know it's a culture fit. I heard from one of my friends who works with me at SiriusXM, who's a huge Jet fan, that said, hey, when it comes to working hard, Jermaine Johnson is a tireless worker. Jermaine Johnson was the soul of that defense in 2023, and that's great. There's no guarantee as to what he's going to be in 2026, but that's great. But that doesn't mean that I don't think that the Titans need to all of a sudden forget about edge rusher. Because yesterday, the Titans retweeted Pat McAfee, who put up a graphic about the Titans having the most cap space in the NFL. That is the Titans saying, look at us. We've got the most cap space in the National Football League. And then they cut Lloyd Cushenberry. So the Titans, again, if you're going to brag about the cap space that you have, you need to use the money. And when it comes to edge rusher, I'm a believer that you can never get enough good edge rushers. And so what I said going into the combine, after we did the free agent board at edge rusher, I said I want to add 2 in free agency, including Trey Hendrickson. I am circling Trey Hendrickson, and I want to spend the money on Trey Hendrickson, and then I'll go get a second-tier guy. And at the time, we talked about bringing Draymond Jones back. We talked about Kwity Paye because Kwity Paye was much better in Indianapolis with Gus Bradley as the defensive coordinator there. We talked about K'Lavon Chaisson and the season he had in New England. We talked about a couple of guys, again, that one-year deal, that second-tier guy. When we're talking about 2 edge rushers you got to get, and then still, if you're sitting there at 4 and Arvell Reese is at the top of the board and he happens to be there, take him. That's what they should do. And yet, even though the Titans are going to retweet Pat McAfee and they want everyone to know, we got all this money, and they told the media at the end of last season when they were getting their butts kicked, and Kevin Harlan on the CBS broadcast is talking about all the cap space they're going to have and everything else. TDG was right. This is it, isn't it? Again, I don't want to get the Titans in trouble for something they haven't done. That's a rule that I believe. But I am very, very nervous about this being the move in free agency. Again, I've said you need 2 edge rushers, and I think Hendrickson is the guy you need. Yesterday, the Titans announced they were releasing Lloyd Cushenberry. We'll get to more on Cushenberry in a second. And then once again, the Titans had to brag about how much money they'll be able to spend. Now, Titans Twitter was all worked up on the Cushenberry front. They were shocked. Like, oh my God, we actually cut Lloyd Cushenberry? More on that in a second. Now, if you watch this show, you weren't surprised about the Cushenberry move because we have been talking since we got into the free agent board, and we have been talking about the money, and we've been saying, hey, Cushenberry is not good, and they need to cut him. So I wasn't surprised yesterday when they cut him. And then when it came to the McAfee retweet, everybody was too busy talking about the logo and not about the fact that the Tennessee Titans were hyping up the fact that they have all of this cap space. That was not my reaction on either Cushenberry or the McAfee thing. My reaction is, if you're going to really do this, where you analyze your books and you get rid of the dead weight like L'Jarius Sneed, like Lloyd Cushenberry, perhaps Calvin Ridley, maybe Tony Pollard, and then you're going to brag about how much money you're going to spend in free agency, then why are we sitting here thinking that the Titans going and getting a guy who, again, it's a $12 million difference to add Jermaine Johnson, is going to be it as far as the edge rusher is concerned? Shouldn't we be talking about the high-priced free agents? Shouldn't we be talking about the most productive guys? Shouldn't we be talking about the Titans adding the big-time playmakers that win you games in the NFL? Because I just don't want to have serious talks about guys that don't necessarily move the needle. And yet I hear the talk about Romeo Doubs. Does Romeo Doubs move the needle? Titan fans were all caught up with Alec Pierce. Does Alec Pierce really move the needle? You know who moves the needle? Trey Hendrickson, the guy who, before he got hurt last year, was a 17.5 sack a season guy. He's 31 years old and he's coming off of an injury. And I do want to talk to the pro football doc. You know, we had him on at the Super Bowl, and he said, hey, don't worry about Cam Ward's shoulder. And when he said don't worry about Cam Ward's shoulder, I was like, okay, I'm not worried about Cam Ward's shoulder. He did say worry about Drake May's shoulder, so I was like, okay, I'm a little worried about Drake May's shoulder in the Super Bowl. And it was a problem. I want to talk to the pro football doc about this core surgery that Trey Hendrickson had, but it sounds like it's pretty standard, and Trey Hendrickson should be back to being Trey Hendrickson at the beginning of the year. And yet, am I the only person here in town that's like, go get Trey Hendrickson? Again, Titan fans are all worked up about Alec Pierce being off the board or Breece Hall staying with the Jets. It's like, oh, no. And I'm like, guys, I didn't even do the research when it came to the free agent board at receiver. I didn't even do the research on Alec Pierce because I knew that Alec Pierce, one way or another, was staying in Indianapolis. So if we're going to be talking free agents, if we're going to be bragging about money, if we're going to talk about having to change this roster and change this team, if you're going to get rid of the dead weight of guys that aren't worth the money and can't play, then I want to be in the Trey Hendrickson discussion. I'm willing to overpay for Trey Hendrickson. If you consider $30 to $35 million a year for the NFL's leading sacker in overpay, I've already said I'd be willing to give Hendrickson $40 million in cash this year. I had somebody, an analytic guy in the NFL, so I can't say who. I had somebody tell me that they think with Hendrickson, like their actual value. So this is an analytic guy in the NFL who, you know, crunches the numbers and wears the thick glasses and all that kind of stuff. And he said to me, he goes, their value for Hendrickson is $35 million guaranteed at signing. Well, I'll give Hendrickson way more than that because I'll give Hendrickson $60 million guaranteed. Like, that's where I will give him $60 million because I want him specifically. The second tier guys, I was like, hey, name your price. I put it at 1 year. I put it basically at 2 years, $20 million with $13 million-ish guaranteed. And it was all of the same Kwity Paye's and Kayvon Chason and Draymond Jones. And Jermaine Johnson's a perfect replacement for that group. And I would have been fine with any of those guys in that grouping being the second edge rusher. But the guy I wanted to get was Trey Hendrickson. And yet, the discussion being had around here is Wan'Dale Robinson? I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson is no bum. But I'm talking about getting a 17.5 sacker. And you're talking about a 5'8" slot receiver? What's the matter with you people? This is where you demand that the Tennessee Titans spend the money and spend the money on productive impact players. Again, Wan'Dale Robinson? The Titans need impact players at impact positions. And in order to do that, you have to overpay because your team stinks. But you know who is productive? Trey Hendrickson. You know who is productive and has been productive for a long time? DJ Moore. Why can't I have Trey Hendrickson? You tell me why I can't have Trey Hendrickson. Why can't I have DJ Moore? Why can't I have Tyler Linderbaum, the top center on the market, who's going to sign for north of $20 million? He's going to break the bank. Well, if I'm bragging about all this money that I have, why can't my team sign him? I said yesterday, if you're Mike Borgonzi, you're going to get fired if you do not win this season. You're going to get fired. That's how it works with Amy Adams-Strunk. Your first year, somebody else who's in their second year takes the blame. And in your second year, you take the blame, and the guy who's in his first year goes completely blameless. That's how Brian Callahan could be an incompetent head coach for an entire season and fly under the radar. So now Borgonzi's the one on the hot seat. And you're going to try to pencil this thing together with Wan'Dale Robinson? And again, I'm not saying he's going to do that because I don't know what he's going to do. I am urging him, take the money and spend it and go get real players. Don't get guys who you can convince yourself on a spreadsheet are good, but aren't impact players. That's how you end up with Lloyd Cushenberry. Go get the impact players. And the other thing when it comes to the money, it's not your money. It's somebody else's. So go spend it. And before you tell me, because I'm sure you will, but Jared, we spent a bunch of money in free agency 2 years ago, and we didn't win any games. Let me ask you this. Was it the money's fault you didn't win any games? Or was it who you spent the money on? Was it the money's fault? Or was it the fact that you had hired a terrible coach who didn't know the rules? New England spent a bunch of money last year, and they went from worst behind the Jets to the Super Bowl. So let's think about it like this. After Cushenberry, after Xavier Woods, and inevitably after L'Jarius Sneed. And I believe that the reason L'Jarius Sneed didn't get cut yesterday or hasn't been cut is there is an injury guarantee in his contract. And I think the Titans are going to try to get all of the money back from Sneed. And I think Sneed's going to try to get that $7.5 million. And so I think there's going to be a little something there. But let's say they cut him, and let's say Sneed does get his $7.5 million injury guarantee. After Cushenberry, after Xavier Woods, after L'Jarius Sneed, the Titans, according to my math, will have about $130 million in cash to spend. And that is after you account for the rookie class. Well, I'm going to give Trey Hendrickson $40 million in year one cash. $40 million. Again, I have 130. That takes me to 110. Let's start with DJ Moore, because I am going to swap spots in the fourth round with the Bears, and I'm going to pick up DJ Moore. So now I've just added $24.5 million. That takes me to $106 million. Trey Hendrickson, I'm going to give him $40 million in year one cash. Tyler Linderbaum, probably going to have to give him $25 million in year one cash. That leaves me with $41.5 million. Now, I got to factor in Jermaine Johnson and his $11.8 million or whatever it ends up being. So I go from $41 million to, what is that, $30 million? And that's before. That is before you get into cutting Ridley, cutting Pollard, cutting some other deadweight around here. And yet, I don't feel like Titan fans are conditioned to think that the Titans will actually go after the big fish. Again, I've got you people saying, we're not going to do that, Jared. So instead, you're going to go overpay Romeo Doubs, a number 3 receiver? think about this. In 2024, the Titans didn't go after the big fish. They spent all the money, but they didn't go after the big fish. They went after, I think, one true big fish, and that was Ridley, and they landed him. And then the rest, all secondary guys. They weren't in on Danielle Hunter, who signed a massive contract with the Texans. And Danielle Hunter is a very good player and has been very productive as a pass rusher for the Texans. They didn't go after Saquon Barkley, who Philadelphia won a Super Bowl behind. The Green Bay Packers in 2024, they paid two guys, Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney, and they paid them both a bunch of money. I remember when they paid Xavier McKinney, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But those are impact players. So if you want to try to win free agency, to go and find a guy who might help your football team and say, okay, well, you know what? Let's pay Romeo Doubs, like a number 2 receiver in the NFL, because we're going to have to pay a suck tax on everybody, and that includes Romeo Doubs. Let's pay Romeo Doubs, or let's pay, and I like Rashid Shaheed, but let's pay Rashid Shaheed, because no, we don't want DJ Moore. I'm like, then what's the point of having the money? That's the point. It's not about winning value in free agency. The point is that you overpay the same way New England overpaid Harold Landry last year. You overpay, and then the guy produces, and then at the end you look at it and you say, okay, well, do we want to pay Stephon Diggs $22 million next year? Now that's a discussion we got to have. But you paid for that guy to play for you to get you out of the gutter. That's what you do. And yet, when it comes to the Titans and it comes to Titan fans, it's like, no. We want to talk about Alec Pierce. Oh, no, we can't get Alec Pierce. What about Trey Hendrickson? He's an all-pro. He's a 17.5 a year sack guy. The only reason that Trey Hendrickson's leaving Cincinnati is because Cincinnati is so cheap, Cincinnati won't pay him. It's unbelievable. And yet, they're all sitting here telling me, Jared, it's a pipe dream. There's no way they're going to be able to go in and get that kind of player. They're not going to go get Trey Hendrickson. Oh, good. So then they'll sign another They'll sign Quiddy Pay. Great. If I was in a Titan meeting today and Mike Borgonzi said to me, now look, you know, this trade for Jermaine Johnson, it kind of came about. We were looking in that class of edge rusher, the way you said. But trust me, Jared, we're still going for Trey Hendrickson. We're going to go all in on Trey. We're going to try to get him. We're going to add at receiver even before the draft. And then that way, when we sit there at number 4, we can take the best player available. If he said that to me, I'd say, whew, oh, thank God. Oh, my goodness. Yes, that's it. That's it. And I'm not mad at them. Because they haven't not gone after Trey Hendrickson. They haven't not gone after DJ Moore. They haven't not gone after Tyler Linderbaum. It just kind of feels like they're not going to. And you people are telling me they shouldn't. And I think that's crazy. You want more Tony Pollards? Or would you like Saquon Barkley? I just don't get it. So that's the first thing. Sorry, I am a little sick. My son, daycare, you guys know how that all works. I do want to get to the Lloyd Cushenberry thing, and then we'll get to your reaction, and then we'll get to Reuben Bain's arms. So the Titans cut Lloyd Cushenberry yesterday. That should not be a surprise, especially if you've watched this show. I have talked about that for a while. You know, when it comes to Lloyd Cushenberry, I think a lot of Titan fans were surprised that Lloyd Cushenberry got released, not because they thought Lloyd Cushenberry was good, but because they looked at the needs chart and they said, well, Lloyd Cushenberry's our center, and now that's another need that we have to go fill. And I understand that. And I understand this time of year, and I think some general managers, especially ones like you used to have around here, I think sometimes pigeonhole themselves by saying, no. Will this guy will be our right tackle? No. This guy will be our center. No. And they just kind of say like, okay, well, let's not analyze whether or not that guy was any good, but let's just keep him because we don't want to replace him. And in some instances, I understand that. But Lloyd Cushenberry was not good. And Lloyd Cushenberry was not good from the jump. The Titans paid Lloyd Cushenberry all that money 2 years ago because he's bigger and fatter than the other guy, Tyler Biadasz, who was the better player. And they did that because Bill Callahan wanted those big offensive linemen, and so they paid Cushenberry all that money. And that's great, except for the fact that Cushenberry wasn't very good. And Cushenberry, in 2 years as the Titans center, Achilles or no Achilles, he was fucking terrible. I mean, I just pulled this up, not to use PFF as the end-all be-all for everything, because PFF says Aaron Brewer's good, and I've watched enough Aaron Brewer football to know that Aaron Brewer's not that good. But when it comes to Lloyd Cushenberry's grade in 2024 was 55.4. His grade last year was 55.2. So PFF said that Lloyd Cushenberry was basically the same player in year 1 and year 2, and that same player wasn't very good. And my eyes watching the Titans made me agree with that sentiment. You know what's crazy? And I noticed this too. When Lloyd Cushenberry got hurt, the Titans put Daniel Brunskill in as their starting center. And Daniel Brunskill was a backup guard who was a $2 million guy. And you can get a Daniel Brunskill every single free agency. You can get a Daniel Brunskill like a week before the draft every year. And I say that with all due respect to Daniel Brunskill. Daniel Brunskill had the exact same PFF grade as Lloyd Cushenberry. And Lloyd Cushenberry made about $12 million more. Last year, Corey Levin went in when Lloyd Cushenberry got hurt. And when Lloyd Cushenberry got hurt, Corey Levin went in and played roughly the same. And when it comes to Brunskill and Levin, those are replacement level players. You know, in baseball, they have the stat wins above replacement. And what that means is if I can go down and get Johnny Joe from AAA to play third base, he represents 0. That is a league average guy. Well, if I've got the best third baseman in baseball, I guess that's Jose Ramirez. If I've got Jose Ramirez, his wins above replacement is 8. So he's 8 more wins this season than just some Johnny Joe from AAA. Well, the Titans were paying somebody $10 million, $12.5 million a season to be basically a replacement level center. And that's what Lloyd Cushenberry was. So I don't immediately think that this means the Titans are going to be in the market for Tyler Linderbaum, though I wouldn't be against it because, once again, they're bragging about how they have the money. But Lloyd Cushenberry was absolutely not worth the money he was being paid. And the way I look at this is there's going to be a handful of free agent centers out there. There's McGovern from the Bills, who's out there. There's Ethan Pocic from the Browns, who's out there. There's Cade Mays, who's out there. Of course, there's Linderbaum. I mean, you can just wait. And whoever doesn't get signed on day 1, day 2, then you just sign them for $4 million. And now you're at worst the same, but most likely better. Because Lloyd Cushenberry wasn't very good at all. And so for me, I'm not sweating this. I don't think this is a sign that they're going to get Tyler Linderbaum, but I wouldn't be against it. But as far as Cushenberry's concerned, Cushenberry sucked. And there were some concerns when Cushenberry came available and the Titans took him. And the one thing he had going for him was durability. He was a durable player. And then he tore his Achilles. But even when he played, he was not good. And it did not matter who the offensive coordinator was calling the plays. It did not matter who the line coach was. Bill Callahan, not Bill Callahan. Some guys improved like Skoronski, improving under Bill Callahan or under the new offensive line coaches. And then there's Lloyd Cushenberry, and he was just ass. And so good riddance. But that, to me, that is not some sort of magical tell of where the Titans are headed. All right, let's get to some of your reaction here, and then we'll get to the Reuben Bain arm length discussion here on the program. Again, the big news today, the Titans making the move for Jermaine Johnson, which I don't have a problem with, but don't tell me this is it. If you tell me this is it, I'm going to be really upset. Richard said this trade was actually good for both teams. This is how trades should be done. I mean, yes and no. Like, I went on Jake Asman, who does he works on Mad Dog Radio some. He hosts a show, ESPN New York, and he hosts his own show, and he's really good. And I went on his Jet show today on YouTube, and we were talking about T'Vondre Sweat, and he told me, he was like, apparently the Jets have hired some sort of D-line guru to be the D-line coach, so the Jet fans are all excited thinking that this guru could unlock T'Vondre Sweat. And between the guru coach and the idea that T'Vondre Sweat, that someone's going to hit that second layer, all I could think about is, I've been there and I've done that. I remember Bill Callahan, the guru coach. He was going to change everything. And then when it comes to unlocking that next level with T'Vondre Sweat, I feel like we've been there too. If Aaron Glenn just sits there and says T'Vondre Sweat is going to play on 2nd down and 1, he's going to play on 3rd and short, he's going to play on the goal line package, he's going to play on run downs, then he'll be fine. If Aaron Glenn thinks, I'm going to get him to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to coach him into being Vince Wilfork, that is not going to happen. And I think Jet fans, for some reason, believe that it'll happen. And I don't know why you would believe that, because the Titans for 2 years told everybody that's what was going to happen. And that never happened. Jamar says, hell no, Trey Hendrickson will cost $35 million and he's aging. Let me tell you this. The old man told me, and I really harp on this a lot because I really believe in this. A guy is only available for one of 4 reasons. Either he's a bad player, he's a bad guy, he's injured, or he's too much money. It's as simple as that. It's one of those 4 reasons. Trey Hendrickson is available not because he's a bad player and not because he's a bad guy. He's available because he's too much money. Well, it's not my money. It's not your money. If you've got $140 million to spend, or I guess, what was it, 131 coming into the day minus 12, so what is that, 119, 118? What's $40 million of 118? Who are you going to get that's better than Trey Hendrickson? Now, with every single guy out there, I have to take a risk on one of those 4 things. Now, the core muscle surgery, it seems more like a sports hernia surgery. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal. We are going to get the pro football doc on the show, and I really want to talk to him about this, and I really want to talk to him about Jordan Tyson. But if pro football doc says stay away from Hendrickson, then I'll stay away from Hendrickson. But I think this core muscle thing, I don't think that's an issue. Now, Hendrickson is getting up there in age. Hendrickson this upcoming season will be 31. But 31 is not 81. And I remind everybody who kept telling me that Derrick Henry was aging and Derrick Henry was just losing a step and Derrick Henry and we're moving on in the future. And I'd say, go look at what Derrick Henry's done over the last 2 years and go look at what you've done over the last 2 years. I'll take Derrick Henry. So when it comes to Hendrickson, there's going to be one of these reasons on everybody. But I also don't think Hendrickson last year had one of those, yeah, he's really going downhill type seasons. He had a PFF grade of 83 last year, which is elite. One guy said, is Trey Hendrickson your 2026 version of Sam Darnold? He might be. Probably not, because everybody knows Trey Hendrickson is good. But I don't understand what's the point of having all the money if you're not going to spend it. Oh, no, we can't spend it on Trey Hendrickson. We need to spend it on Wan'Dale Robinson. Okay, sorry. I want good players. I'm sorry. One guy says, why would you pay Hendrickson when you can draft a young guy at that spot? Never fails. I love this. Every time this year, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I call this the mystery box theory. Every time this year, there is the opportunity to acquire a known commodity, a good player you're going to have to pay, and it's going to cost you a draft pick. And there will be a team that will either say no because they don't want to trade the draft pick because they'll say, we can turn that draft pick into that player and pay that guy on a rookie contract, or they'll sit back and say, no, we don't want to do it because we want to use our picks and and they'll pretend like their picks are for sure going to hit. And the example I will use is T. Higgins 2 years ago. I believe Cincinnati used the franchise tag on T. Higgins because they wanted to get a deal done for T. Higgins. They used a second-round pick, top of the second-round pick in 2020 on T. Higgins. T. Higgins was very good for 4 years. They used the franchise tag on T. Higgins. T. Higgins wanted a top-of-the-market deal. If T. Higgins had gone to free agency, T. Higgins would have signed for somewhere around $30 million because T. Higgins would have been such a hot commodity at that point in time. And I think Cincinnati knew that somebody was going to pay Higgins like a number one. So let's tag him and let's get our second-round pick back, and then let's just draft the next T. Higgins. The problem with that was everybody else was saying, we're not going to do that. We're just going to use that second-round pick that you want from us, and we're just going to draft the next T. Higgins. And that sounds great, but it's not great when that becomes Treylon Burks. It's not great when you're the Buffalo Bills and you don't make that move and you draft Keon Coleman in the second round. Or you're the New England Patriots and you need a number one receiver because you're going to draft Drake May with the third overall pick and you draft Jalen Polk in the second round. Just go draft the next Trey Hendrickson. Oh, yeah. Which one of these guys is Trey Hendrickson? Is a 17.5 sack a season guy. He doesn't exist. TDG, listen to me, Jared. It's a rebuild. Okay. That's a good point. And it brings me, I think, to a very important question when it comes to the quote-unquote rebuild. So as far as the Titans and the rebuild is concerned, are they supposed to not win games next season? Like, it feels to me as if a lot of people just excused last season's 3-14 year off and said, well, we were rebuilding. Or, well, it was all Brian Callahan's fault. But I'm not sure going into the year, you people would have been okay with 3-14. Like if I said right now, you're going to be 3-14 next year. It's a rebuild, right, TDG? You're going to be 3-14 next year. Would you sign up for that? I don't think so. And at some point, you have to start winning games. And at some point, Cam Ward has to start winning some games. And I'm just telling you that when it comes to the Titans and who owns the team and how she reacts, she's going to fire Mike Borgonzi if he doesn't win any more games this year because he'll be the guy who gets blamed. So you can tell me it's a rebuild all you want. You people can tell me, oh, winning 8 games doesn't matter. But if you win 8 games, that means that at some point in the year, in November and December, you were something like 7-7. Well, that means you're in the hunt for a playoff spot. That gets fan bases excited. That gets tickets purchased. That gets the owner not looking like a fool. Shit matters now. So you can rebuild me all you want, but again, at some point you have to start winning some games. Were the Patriots this time last year? Were they not in a quote-unquote rebuild? Or did they just know that they were going to go to the Super Bowl because they hired the great Mike Vrabel? I think they were in a rebuild, and they said, we got to support our young quarterback, so let's go spend the money on Milton Williams and Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses is old as shit. And they were like, let's go spend the money so we can protect our young quarterback. Let's go spend the money on Milton Williams, highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL, even though Milton Williams isn't that good. Let's go spend the money on Harold Landry, even though Harold Landry's not that good anymore. I mean, did they think they were going to the Super Bowl when they did all that? I don't think they did. Kevin brings up a great point. How is it a rebuild without stacking picks? A rebuild would have been trading the Big Jeff pick. That's what I've said. Because people with the Titans are like, Jared, we want to be good for like 7 or 8 years. If you want Sam Darnold, you're only going to be good for 1 or 2 years. And I'm like, I'd rather be good for 1 or 2 years than not good for 7 or 8 years. But again, you don't know if you're going to be good for 7 or 8 years. And if your plan is for 7 or 8 years, then why is Jeffrey Simmons on the team? And it's because they don't know that. TDG says, we're going to go over your win prediction of 6. I didn't predict 6. 6 is the bar. Like, if they don't win more than 6 games, blow it up again. I'm dead serious. And 6 games is not a lot to ask for. But you're telling me today, TDG, in this rebuild, you are telling me today that they're going to win more than 6. So when they don't, and you tell me it was a rebuild, Jared, I'll remember that. Let's talk about Reuben Bain and his arms. So today, Reuben Bain, he didn't test. He's not doing any of the drills, which is fine. Those guys don't do it anymore. I wish they would compete, but they don't. And so who am I to, again, if you say I'm not going to take any guys that don't test at the combine, you wouldn't have any players in today's game. So Reuben Bain measured with sub 31-inch arms. Daniel Jeremiah put it out there on Twitter that Reuben Bain is 6 foot and he's got a 9 1/8 hand and he's got a 77.5 wing, but he's got a 30 7/8 arm. That is a sub 31-inch arm. That is a problem. Now, people will get asked about this, and they'll all say the same things. They'll all say it doesn't matter. They will say size doesn't matter. It's all about how you use it. And for the most part, that is true. But this is the 4th overall pick we're talking about here. Before you tell me size doesn't matter, what you are doing is you are asking me to ignore one of the most consistent aspects of the draft with the 4th pick. I can't do that. If this was the 18th pick and you were sitting there telling me, hey, Reuben Bain with the short arms, he would go later in other drafts, but he's by far the best guy on the board. Okay, at 18, when we're probably out of first-round graded players, we can have that discussion. We cannot have that discussion with the 4th overall pick. I don't give a shit how bad of a draft it is. Pull up Braden's big board. So this is what Braden put out there yesterday. He has Sonny Styles as the top overall player. By the way, Sonny Styles measured today and apparently was off the charts. Caleb Downs, number 2. Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love, David Bailey, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Arvell Reese, Carnell Tate, then Reuben Bain. And his whole point yesterday that Braden brought up, which was, I have Bain at 10, but I don't think there's that much of a difference between 5 and 10. Well, you're asking me to pick an exception. And you know what the old saying is. If you draft for exception, pretty soon you'll have an entire team full of exceptions. And I'll use the example when you tell me that arm length doesn't matter. I'll use the example of Will Campbell in the Super Bowl. The New England Patriots last year were on the clock with the 4th overall pick. They tried to trade out. Nobody wanted to trade out. So when they couldn't trade out, they took the best player on the board, Will Campbell. They had as a left tackle. His arms aren't long enough for him to be a left tackle, but they said, fine, let's do it. They drafted Will Campbell. So now Will Campbell's their left tackle. They get into the Super Bowl. They get into the playoffs. They start playing all-pro caliber edge rushers, and Myles Garrett has 5 sacks in a game. Why? Because Will Campbell's not built to be a left tackle. So you just use the 4th overall pick on a guard, and you've got him at tackle, and now you're going to try to make it work because you want to justify the pick that you made, and I don't think Will Campbell can play tackle. So when it comes to Reuben Bain, you want me to draft an edge rusher. You're telling me not to sign Trey Hendrickson, who sacks the quarterback 17 and a half times a season. You're telling me not to not to sign Trey Hendrickson so I can draft Reuben Bain? And Reuben Bain does not check all the boxes? And you want me to do that with the 4th pick? I don't think I can do that. I think if I was in the room right now and we were having the discussion about how we wanted to spend our money, and I've already told you, I'm going out and getting a receiver. I'm getting DJ Moore. I'm going out and I'm getting Trey Hendrickson. And then when I'm sitting there at 4, if the best guy on the board is Carnell Tate, I don't give a shit if I've got DJ Moore. I'll take Carnell Tate. If the best guy on the board is David Bailey, I'll take David Bailey. That doesn't bother me. But the way I feel today, I believe Arvell Reese is going number 2. There are 2 teams in the draft that today know who they're going to take. The Raiders are taking Fernando Mendoza, and because everybody knows the Raiders are taking Fernando Mendoza, the Jets at number 2 can decide who they're going to take. And I don't know if they're going to take Arvell Reese or if they're going to take David Bailey. I have heard a lot of good stuff about David Bailey. I had one coach tell me about David Bailey, and I mean, his pants were off. And I actually probably plan to save that for tomorrow's show with what that coach told me, but I heard it and it was hard to unhear. But let's say Bailey's not available. Let's say Reese isn't available and Bain's the top edge guy. I do not want to put myself in a position where I have to draft him with the 4th pick. That's the exact same position you put yourself in when Joe Alt went off the board at 5 and you sat there at 7 and had to take J.C. Latham or had to take Olu Fashanu and couldn't take a Brock Bowers because you had put yourself in that position. Again, that's what incompetent general managers do. I can't take Reuben Bain with the 4th overall pick. I think I would rather take Jeremiah Love with the 4th overall pick, saying that, hey, Jeremiah Love might be a running back, and running backs may not be as valuable in today's game as they used to be. I think I'd rather take Jeremiah Love, who checks every single box, than take Reuben Bain, who does not check one in very, very important box. Now, I'm not saying today that I would draft Jeremiah Love, but I'm struggling with Reuben Bain given the arm length. And I know some people say it doesn't matter, and then I listen to gold jacket general managers like Bill Polian and say that stuff absolutely matters. I heard Robert Saleh talk about how when it comes to the testing results at the combine and the measurements and stuff like that, that goes into analytics, and that stuff matters. I think it is very noteworthy that there has never been, and I don't know if this is true or not, I'm repeating something I think I saw on Twitter, so again, take it with a grain of salt, but there has never been a Pro Bowl edge rusher that had sub 31-inch arms. Now, that's not saying Reuben Bain can't do it, because there are tons of exceptions all the time that have success in the NFL. But you draft exceptions in the 3rd round. You draft a guy in the 3rd round who would go in the 1st round, but he's coming off of an injury. You draft a guy in the 3rd round who would be a 1st-round receiver, but he's not very fast. You draft a guy in the 3rd round who would be a really good linebacker, but he's not very big. And that guy might become Cedric Gray. But to sit here and tell me that I got to use the 4th pick on an exception, I can't do that. I just do not believe in that. And so right now, again, I'd throw Braden's big board up there, and I think Braden was anticipating that Reuben Bain was going to check in with sub-31 arms. I mean, I think I'd rather take all these guys. If they check the boxes for 1st round, what are called blue players. If Jeremiah Love checks all the boxes of a blue player, and David Bailey and Mekhi Lemon and Carnell Tate, if they check all those boxes, I think I'd rather take them than take Reuben Bain, because the arm length does matter. And now let me ask you this. Again, let's use this board. I also can't get over the fact that Braden has Sonny Styles number 1, and Sonny Styles apparently measured today like a monster. Let's say you're on the clock. And again, Bain doesn't check every box. Mendoza goes 1, Reese goes 2, Bailey goes 3. But I didn't sign Trey Hendrickson. So now I have to draft an edge. So now, do I have to take Reuben Bain? And that's what I worry about with Reuben Bain's arms and free agency is I worry about putting myself in the position to where I have to take that guy. And I don't want to do that. If Sonny Styles checks all the boxes and he's the best player in the draft, and you tell me you think Sonny Styles might be Ray Lewis, well, then I'll take him, even if it's not a premium position, over a guy who does play a premium position but doesn't check all the boxes of a blue player. That is, in my opinion, a bad miss for Reuben Bain, which he probably knew was coming. Again, I love looking at this Braden big board because when I look at Braden's big board, I can't help but think about all these guys that we're just writing off because, again, we know the Titans are bad, and we know they're bad at receiver, and we know they're bad at edge rusher, and we know they're bad at pretty much every premium position, and we just totally say Sonny Styles, nope, linebacker. Caleb Downs, nope, safety. Jeremiah Love, nope, running back. And it's like, yes, but if Reuben Bain doesn't have long enough arms, I don't think I can do that either. So where I sit right now, you cannot say, oh, well, we're just going to take so-and-so because you don't know who's going to be there. But I am really starting to rethink it's got to be, you'll have the choice of the 2 of the 3. And that being Bailey, Reese, and Bain. And it's clear the Jets are taking one of those 3 guys. And that's why they made the trade today. You know, one thing I guess I don't understand about the Jermaine Johnson trade is I do not understand. Somebody help me understand this. Like, I do not understand how Jermaine Johnson gets 3 sacks last year. And the Jets make this trade. And all of a sudden, Twitter's like, oh, well, they are now definitely taking either David Bailey or Arvell Reese. It's like you have to trade away a 3-sack guy to now all of a sudden say we need an edge rusher. I do not believe in this. Let's throw up the depth chart. Oh, we need a tackle. Go take that guy. Again, that's how you get Corey Davis. I don't believe in that. It's like right now the Titans have 2 running backs. And I don't know when Tony Pollard's money for next season becomes guaranteed. I don't know if it becomes guaranteed on like the 5th day of the league year or if he just has a standard contract where as a vested veteran, his money would become guaranteed at the start of week 1. But if I've got Tony Pollard on the team at $8 million and we take Jeremiah Love with the 4th overall pick, well, now I'm sitting there saying, well, I'm going to cut Tony Pollard and I just saved $8 million and I got Jeremiah Love. That's why I want to fill every position before I get to the draft. And then when I get to the draft, I can say, who's the best player? Well, we think Caleb Downs is going to be Ed Reed. You think he's going to be Ed Reed? Take him. But he better be Ed Reed. He can't just be some run-of-the-mill safety. He better be that guy. And lastly, I have got to get to this New York Jets fan base thing. Sometimes I think I owe Titans fans an apology. Now, Titan fans always get on my ass, and whenever I'm right, which is way more often than when I'm wrong, I never or very rarely do I get you were right, Jared. I never get that collectively from the fan base, or at least never collectively from the Twitter fan base. Sam Darnold goes and wins a Super Bowl 1 year after all of you people told me that he sucked, and it's not, you were right, Jared. We were wrong. Sam Darnold actually is good. No. It becomes, he wouldn't do that here. When the Super Bowl, you're probably right. Would you be much better? Yes, you would be. Well, T'Vondre Sweat was a very popular and polarizing decision from the let Rand cook era. And what I could not get over after the Titans drafted T'Vondre Sweat was the amount of people that just trashed that pick, including Rick Spielman, the former general manager, who was hosting a podcast for CBS, who has been replaced by Rand Carthon because he's now a senior advisor for the Jets. And Rick Spielman was like, you do not take that kind of player with the 38th pick. And I'd play the cuts, and people would be like, oh, what does he know? He sucks. And Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon didn't want to make the trade. They said, no, T'Vondre Sweat, he's going to be a good pass rusher. You will see. You will see T'Vondre Sweat. He's going to be good. And I never, ever bought it. And he'd have a good PFF grade because, again, he's a run defender. Whoa. And so he never plays in the big moments. He's never in on passing downs. He's never in the 2-minute drill. He never gets after the quarterback. He never does the things that you need those impact players to be able to do. And Titans Twitter and you Titan fans were like, what do you think of Sweat now, Jared? I mean, Willie Donick and Derek Mason and Adam Vingan, they were like, it may not be a home run of a pick, but that's a double. And I'm like, it's a run-stuffing DT. You can get that as a UDFA pretty much every year. Like, you can get that every year. And then a new general manager comes in, and I guarantee you, this general manager looked at T'Vondre Sweat and was like, the fuck we used the 38th pick on this guy for? To which I would say, that's why you have the job. Is because you used the 38th pick on that guy. But Mike Borgonzi, right away, he was like, I don't want any part of this guy. And when it comes to Sweat, like, he's a fine run-stuffing DT. And that's great. There's a need for that on a team. Just like there's a need for a punt returner on a team. But these Jet fans today are like, oh my God, we just added Warren Sapp. No, you did not. You added a guy who, if he really gave a shit, might be Warren Sapp one day, but he's never going to give a shit. It's been 2 years. He doesn't care. There were red flags on him up and down and out the wazoo coming out of the draft. Now, it's a fine deal because you got a salary dump out of it and you didn't give up any draft picks in order to get the guy. So good for a run-stuffing DT. That's probably better than paying $15 million for DJ Reader. But stop acting like you just went out and acquired Warren Sapp or some sort of great DT. This guy could be Vince Wilfork if he wanted to be Vince Wilfork. But the truth is he doesn't. He wants to go and party. He wants to hit the Golden Corral. That's what he wants to do. Jeffrey Simmons wanted him to come out to Dallas with him to work out. And he's like, no, I'm good. This year, Simmons was like, he's not going to have a choice. And I heard that and I thought, no, he is a grown-ass man and he's going to have a choice. And we've learned through 2 years when it comes to T'Vondre Sweat and he's got a choice to make, he's going to make the wrong one. I think the way I'd sum it up is somebody I work with at SiriusXM's huge Jets fan. And he texted me. He goes, what do you think of Sweat? And I said, he's a good run-stuffing DT, but he's fat, he's stupid, and he's lazy. To which that person said back, fat, stupid, lazy, a hallmark of the Jets. I think that's perfectly well said from what I know of the Jets. And look, Jermaine Johnson probably didn't fit into their plans, and he apparently wanted a trade. And for me, his $12 million after you factor in the Sweat money, that's roughly the same that a guy like Kwity Paye would have cost on the free agent market. I don't have a problem with that. I also am not sitting here saying the Titans just got a former Pro Bowl pass rusher with 56 hurries 2 years ago. No, I'm like, I realize what Jermaine Johnson is. And you Jet fans, I mean, you guys need to understand what you're getting in T'Vondre Sweat. He's a run-stuffing DT, and if you think he's going to be any more than that, you are going to be highly disappointed. He's not going to be a leader. He's not going to be an impact player. He's not going to do the things that you want out of your team. He is what he is, which is what everybody except the Titans figured when he was coming out. Red flags, character issues, weight issues, and it hasn't changed. That's it for us. Thanks to Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Thank you to all of you, especially those that watched our emergency reaction and this one today. We should 50-50 on tomorrow's show. We'll see. Stillman and Company. We'll see everybody right here on the program. Like and subscribe and tell your friends to like and subscribe.